Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Last night we completed Surah Al-Nisa. We started Surah Al-Ma'idah. Just want to focus on a couple of verses which were in Surah Al-Nisa. And particularly these verses are relating to conversations that we have and things that we say and the interaction that we have in terms of dealing with people, and especially relating to nowadays social media. In the old days, obviously, the only conversation that a person could have was face to face with a person, and we often have this criticism of the younger generation that nowadays they cannot look you in the eye and have a 5-minute conversation with you. And the reason for that is basically that people have gotten so used to using social media, texting out their feelings in the form of emojis and so on. So with the prevalence of social media, the responsibility on all of us is to make sure that those same rules that Islam has put into place for having conversations with each other, those same rules are there in place for how we use social media. So the way we talk, what we say, the content of our conversations, all the same rules apply as they apply in real time and face-to-face conversation. For example, just like backbiting is haram in a real conversation, similarly backbiting is haram in a social media conversation. Slandering is haram in a real conversation, so slandering on social media, it is also haram. The verse that I'd like everyone to focus on is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا خير في كثير من نجواهم. There is no khair, there is no goodness in most of their conversations. There is no goodness in most of their conversations. Now this la khaira, it's a very powerful grammatical sentence. It's the same sentence that we use in La ilaha illallah, okay, which is in Arabic is known as La li nafyi al-jins, which negates all forms of khair. La khair meaning there is no khair at all. There is no goodness at all. Just like when we say La ilaha illallah, we negate all gods. We negate everyone that people worship except illa Allah, except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So just like we negate all the gods, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is negating all forms of goodness when we are having conversations. Except إلا من أمر بصدقة أو معروف أو إصلاح بين الناس. Except that a person, he is ordering a person to do good, he is ordering a person to give sadaqah, or a person is trying to reconcile between people. This should be the gist of all of our conversations. Our conversations should be Islamically motivated. What good can I do? What good can I say? And this is actually part of Iman. A hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, very famous. Man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir falyaqul khayran aw liyasmut. A person who has Iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the last day, he should only say good or he should remain quiet. So better than running our mouth, or in today's case, running our fingers and typing things out. If what you're saying is not good, if there is no goodness in it, if you're not trying to promote good, if you're not trying to suppress evil, if you're not reconciling between people, then for the most part, what is going on in that conversation of yours, whether in real time or on social media that is not Islamically okay. So better to remain quiet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on to say, وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ فَسَوْفَ نُؤْتِيهِ أَجْرًا عَظِيمًا. And whoever does this, seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we would give him a huge reward. So, on the flip side of being cautious, it is not that a person is okay, he's just being cautious, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is promising a reward for that caution. So a person being careful with what he says and what he writes on social media, that caution will be a source of reward for him. And there is another verse that I would like to point out is that talks about ridiculing the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ridiculing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that when the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يستهزأ بها أو يكفر بها فلا تقعدوا معهم حتى يخوضوا في حديث غيره. When the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are being ridiculed, the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is being ridiculed, then don't sit with such people. Otherwise, until they engage in another conversation, إِنَّكُمْ إِذًا مِثْلُهُمْ. If you sit with them, and even if you sit quietly, the fact that you are there and participating, it means that you are there and you are equal to them, unless you put a stop to it and you tell people that what you're saying is wrong. So nowadays it's very common, especially for the people that assume that they're more educated than other people, and they assume that they know more about religion than other people. They make a point of ridiculing, certain practices that people do, or certain hadith or ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, pointing out and criticizing. And one clear example of that in this day and age, especially during the age of COVID-19, was the ridiculing of scholars and imams and ulama that passed rulings, certain rulings, whether to congregate, not to congregate. They basically, a lot of scholars were on the fence as to what to do. So this hesitation from the scholars resulted in the public lambasting them and criticizing them and being harsh about them. We need to remember that the responsibility of the scholars is not to the public. The responsibility of the scholars and the ulama is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And just like they are responsible for the safety of the people and to make sure that nobody gets sick because of any virus or illness, they also have a responsibility for our spiritual connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And anything that they see that could be detrimental to that spiritual connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there will obviously be a hesitation in giving a ruling and giving a fatwa that might become a hindrance in severing that spiritual connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now think of that for a minute, what steps we've taken to not be afflicted with this so-called COVID-19 virus. We've closed up the masajid. We're not having Jummah prayer. We're not having Taraweeh prayer. We're not having congregational iftar. All of the basic fundamentals of Islam that we take for granted, we're not practicing them. So it's obvious that when scholars are going to give a ruling to stop people from coming to Jummah, to stop people from congregating for Taraweeh, to stop people from congregating for the 5 times daily prayer, to stop people from coming to the masjid, this is a situation and a decision that cannot be taken lightly. So we need to understand why that hesitation was there, to give rulings to make that happen. So we should never criticize or rebuke or say things about the scholars. Criticizing the scholars is tantamount to criticizing the Prophet ﷺ. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna al-ulama warathatul anbiya." The ulama, they are the warathatul anbiya. They are the inheritors of the Anbiya ﷺ. So the summary of today's talk is, number one, conversing, we have a responsibility. Whether in real life or social media, our conversations should only and only be about good and not about promoting backbiting, slandering, and promoting evil. And when it comes to ridiculing the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ridiculing the words of the Prophet ﷺ, and ridiculing the scholars of Islam, we need to make sure that we think twice about doing that, because this is tantamount to getting on the borders of kufr and disbelief. So I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us tawfiq to guard our tongues, to guide our conversations, and think twice before making any type of comment or conversation that we could be held accountable for in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jazakumullahu khairan.